Do you remember much about Winthrop at all?
Not much, because I was 3 when we went over there, and my brother George died, and I was 6. He was 8. And then we moved back to, actually we moved to Samish Island for a while, and my dad and mother, they caught some crab and clams for a living for a few months while I lived with we lived with my great-grandfather. And I went to
Charlie Hempstead. Was Anna passed away at that time then? She died in 1923.
I remember Fatty Grandma. That's what we always called her.
No.
And I never did know what her name was.
Was that Hempstead's wife then? Okay.
And they gave me we were over in Winthrop. They sent me the locket that she wore because she said when I would sit on her lap and I always played with it. So they sent it to me, and I gave it to Leonie when she was married. And then she gave it to her daughter when she was married.
Passing it down, good.
So that's been through a lot of hands in a lot of years.
Yeah. She died at 23 and he died in 33. Do you remember much about Uncle Charlie?
Oh, I remember Uncle Charlie. Uncle Charlie took care of my kids, my little girls, when I was working for a little while. He stayed with us. Uncle Charlie stayed with everybody off and on.
Yeah, that's what they said. Nobody forgets Uncle Charlie.
No.
I have a picture of him in front of our house with Jack when he was staying with Ina on Orleans Street.
Oh.
Just before he died. And I think I was about 4 years old, but I vaguely remember him. My dad gave me a pocket knife that he had from him, so I'm going down that line a little bit there too.
Yeah.
Did I know Uncle Charlie?
Uncle Charlie took care of your kids when you were little.
Had one
No,
arm.
you wouldn't remember, honey. That was
What I had done for it?
No.
He died in 1945, I think.
See, in 45 you were
3.
Uh,
Well, are you older than me?
December 9th of 41.
Oh, you're just 4 months younger. Oh.
Yeah, see, Leonie was born in 1940. And you were born in 1942 in April.
But I barely
Uncle
remember.
Charlie, he was in the hospital when they found out he had cancer. And I donated some blood for him. Didn't work, but anyway. We were living on Elizabeth Street then. Or not Elizabeth Street, Grant Street. And that's when Grammy Babcock died too. Not right then, but
Yeah, that was.
she had cancer also.
Yeah, that was Ina. So Ina and Charlie and George were Anna's kids.
Uncle George and Uncle Bill were Grammy and Grandpa's Babcock's children.
Yeah, although Charlie had a brother named George too, who died younger down in Oregon.
Oh.
So she's in the backyard now instead of the...
So you don't remember him at all?
Well, I know that Mom, both Uncle Bill and Uncle George died from that when the donkey blew up.
Right.
And then her sister, her dad died, and then her son died, and then both of her brothers died, and then her sister died childbirth.
Yeah.
All kind of real close there together.
I know.
And I grew up knowing that you never knew if you were going to, when I'd see you, never know if you're going to see them again. So I learned that you're better be pretty nice to people. You never know if you're going to see them again.
Yeah.
Even Hazel's husband, Charlie Thomas, I stopped there. Well, I had hiked up to Mount Baker with Claire Hellier, and on our way back, stopped there and stayed there. And that was the last time I saw Charlie Thomas. He died of a heart attack after that.
Yeah, and then my grandfather, so she had 2 son-in-laws that died too there.
Yeah. So, you just never know. You don't have to be old to die, right?
That's right. You need to be ready. It's an important thing.
And my little brother George, he and I were so close. We were always together over at Winthrop. So when he died, it just broke my heart.
Yeah, and your mom, that's when she wanted to leave that country.
She said, I'm going to get out of this godforsaken country.
Yeah.
How did you know all that?
Oh, Bernice told me I've got him on tape telling me these things, but he didn't remember,
No.
living at Park before you moved over there. Did you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And
Well, see, I was only 3, I think, when we moved over to Winter. But I remember on the way over, we stopped, I don't know, it took us 3 days to go over something in an old Model T or somebody's old car. I think Uncle Bill drove it. And we stopped at the campground. We stayed underneath a gazebo kind of thing at the park. And they had this fire going, and my little George's coat caught on fire. And, I don't know if I remember that or if it was just from them talking about it so much. A lot of that,
sure.
It gets in your mind and you hear it all the time. And so, do I really remember that?
Yeah.
But I can just see that. So whether I did or not, I don't know.
So when you were on Samish Island, did you stay with the Hempsteads, or did you have? They had a big house, I guess.
Big house, and the back in the porch, they had for the well and the pump. And there was a big tree growing right out of the porch.
Yeah.
What kind is it? And I went to a Sunday school there.
Back in the 80s.
And we didn't live there very long. And I got the cutest little book from going to Sunday school every day. It had neat little verses on it, and I memorized all those verses. And when I was in school, of course, they used to let us celebrate Christmas.
Sure, yeah.
And I always, for about 4 years, I would get up and I'd say that little poem. And I still got that little book.
Yeah. Ernie remembers the big grandfather clock that they had Hempsteads in their house.
I just remember that because I don't think he was ever there.
They went down clam digging and things like that a few times. He said it was after.
It must have been after
she died. The way I understand it, before Anne, his wife, died, she gave one set of property to Charlie, and then they gave the other property to Lila, which was Hempstead's daughter. She was living in Alaska at the time. And right after Anna died, her name was Francina. Anyhow, right after she died, Hempstead kicked Charlie off the land.
He went from family to family. We all loved Uncle Charlie. Played the mouth organ and would jig.
Nobody wants to touch it.
Dance the jig. That's what they said. He always danced the jig. Did he ever tell you at all how he lost his arm or anything?
Rabbit hunting, I think.
Okay, that's the
because
story
he
I
had his jaw, also. I think that he only had one eye, and then his jaw was damaged. That's why he wore the mustache.
Now, the way Ernie has it is those were two different accidents. He told Ernie that he was living down in New Mexico or somewhere, and he got in a fight over a girl, and the guy shot him up through the neck, and it came out on
I
this
didn't
side.
hear that story.
And that's why he wore a bandana around his neck and a mustache and long sideburns. And then apparently it was a different time when he... Did you ever get a copy of the book my mom and I wrote
I used to be done
about my dad's life? Okay, and that tells all about the Babcocks when they first came to Bellingham in 1900. And I have the history. You may have that copy if you'd like it.
I can?
Yeah. And so we've written different... People wrote their stories in it. And so we have stories about all the Babcock kids and the Marshall kids. And I think there's a little...
Will you autograph it for me?
Sure. And so we wrote that about my dad. And
now I have the one that your mother wrote about her family.
She wrote one on the Herbaghs, and she wrote one on the Marshalls too. But her grammar and her spelling and everything was
that was okay.
And so she would think in phrases, and it's really good to understand what Mom was like. But when I put this out and we wanted to make copies, we sold some copies of it. So I spent a year editing all the stuff that she had and adding the history.
Must have been difficult.
got it on computer, and so I made it presentable for people outside the family who would be able to understand
I
it better.
enjoyed it because it was like her.
Yep, it was. Now, what did you have for the spelling of your mom's name? Did you ever hear that?
Well, her name actually was Rosella, but she always said Zella, and way back, she always put an H on the end of it,
Okay.
and then she got so she didn't put the H on it, so it was just Zella.
And I guess one of her relatives was Rosella also, and she spelled it Rozellah.
Right.
And that was she was a Babcock too, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was Mom's aunt,
Right.
Aunt Rosella.
And the spelling that I had for your mom was Rose, but I don't know if that.
Well, of course, Mom always spelled her name Zella.
Right. Okay.
But for years, she always had an H on the end of it, and then all at once she didn't put the H on it. And evidently, her middle name was Vivian, and because she's always said her name, Zella V. had her.
And this is the latest book that I have. It's written by someone else. It's the history of Samish Island.
Oh,
And they have just a little article in there about, well, they have Hempstead's mentioned a couple times. So I went down and talked to the author about it, and he's going to put out a supplement. And so I've written 4 pages for the supplement on the family history that we have
yeah.
to give to him. And he's
I
going to
remember
print it
that
out.
the little store right across from the house where we live, where Hempstead lived, right across it's this little store right across the road, with this little tiny store. And I remember open the door and the tinkle. They had this little
Bell,
thing,
right?
yeah, over. And they had what we used to call these little babies.
Oh, yeah. We used to buy those all the time, too. Yeah.
But that's what I remember about the store.
Was it that store? This is a Lewis store. That's one of the stores.
No, it was a little tiny one.
Okay.
The Loops related to my dad. Yeah.
And did you know Flossie? Did you ever hear of her? Okay. That was one of Hempstead's daughters, his other daughter. And she owned a lot of property down there, too.
I didn't know any of his relatives. I mean, all I knew was...
Okay, you could have this copy, too, if you'd
thank
like
you.
to. I made those pages out, and I was going to print another copy, so I have them on my computer. So that tells the history of all of our family on the Samish Island.
Kreider.
The old Atlanta Hotel, was it still there at the time you were there?
I really don't remember.
Okay, that was supposed to be kind of right across the street from them, and it burned down, so it most likely was gone at that time.
See, that was, what, 1924?
That's when you were there?
I was 6.
Okay.
I was born in 1918. So that would have been... And I think it was kind of in the wintertime. Because little Georgie died in September, and then we moved back. Mom says, go and get out of that godforsaken country. Not fit for man or dog, she said.
Okay, so so that would have been Vivian. So I had Rosella V. And you were born on 7 February 1918 in Park.
Right.
This is Grammy and Grampy, right? We have the one in the
So
brown
we've got all this on the family history
Well, it's in that
on here.
the other night.
And George Wesley.
Right.
So that was named after Grandpa, too, then.
I'll go get a chair.
Dolores, remember when you recovered the seats? I had the original cover on it that you put on it. Yeah, I have it.
Yeah, I know it.
Who's
He
that?
played linebacker a little bit. But that was
Turn the light on. Oh, this light is
didn't let him catch the ball.
When is Dad's dog?
Oh, that's Grampy.
Uh-huh.
I don't know who that is.
That's Dad. The dog is Dad's dog. I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, yeah, Chuck. That doesn't look like Chuck.
No,
Chuck didn't have all that white.
that's one of Dad's dogs.
But I've got a picture.
You've been lying to me all these years, telling me this was Chuck, and it wasn't.
But I've got a
Now, don't you
picture.
feel
I've
terrible?
got a picture of Chuck.
What is it?
But who is
She's
this?
ignoring you, is what
She
she's
usually
doing.
does.
Who is the
I don't
girl?
know.
Or boy, or whoever it is.
It's not Dad and Grampy. I think it's Dad and Grampy.
It could be. I know it's. I
We
know
have
it's-
absolutely no idea who that is.
What about the picture?
Oh, I
the
think
picture
that's.
with
I think that's her name.
the little the
Yeah.
white goat and the
Yep,
little
that's
wagon and
that's in here.
Yeah, I've got that.
oh, you got that too.
Okay.
Mhm.
I love that picture.
Yeah, Grampy, and I don't know who. Oh, that's George McClellan.
Is that who that is?
Yeah.
Is that who was that? He used to spend a lot of time on the Skagit River. You go down there, and, but who was that? He spent time with? Was it one of the McClellans or?
I don't remember, but that's who that is. Because
And
George
he had it, and his father or something had like a house wrapped or something out there on the river. He used to spend a lot of time.
Well, I have